At times in life, people may achieve certain feats or simply challenge you and say something awful to you, which make you in turn feel bad about yourself. Like you've got it easy and you're not achieving anything. Like you've got all the means in the world, yet you're making nothing of it. Now, there is truth in that. Everybody could always try harder, that's for sure. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Today I'm going to talk about, you probably know those memes that circulate around about my parents when they used to go to school, how they used to go to school, and you see them going through war or mounting over mountains or walking through the Amazons or snowy mountains, whatever it is, to describe how much harder it was for them and how they had it tough, right? And I just want to start by saying that the level changes continuously. There is not a standard for a thing. There is, but the standard for things are what is normal. That's the standard. It's normal, right? And people don't actually think about this often enough, because if everybody's struggling with something, then that's the standard. It doesn't mean that everybody's become weak. It's just that times have changed, and if you look at things on a surface level, then you may find the conclusion of, oh, people are weak nowadays, what's up with all of this? But just like for different matters in the world, there is many variables, many different factors that affect the end product. And for this end product, I'm going to talk about those factors. Alright, let's begin by addressing some of the factors that make up for this view of I had it harder than you, and yes, look at you. So, to start with, let's get people off their high horses, right? They need to humble down a little bit. Let's take a generation that grew up their 20s or the teenage years on the 80s. And then they now come to you in this day and age and say, back in my day, we were more social. We didn't spend time on our phone or waste time. We knocked on a friend's door and then we got to hang out with them. We weren't inside all of the time. And it's like, alright, first of all, the advancements, the technological advancements weren't the same back then. You didn't have these opportunities, like saying, you're eating fast food? Well, when I was little, I was poor and I never ate fast food, yeah, because you couldn't afford it. Right, that's not like an example, it's absurd to even think about it in the first place. But secondly, it's like, sure, alright, let's give the benefit of the doubt. You're more social, but do you think you were a saint? If you look back at those years, right, I'm not saying it's not a problem now, but it was way bigger before and nobody spoke about it. The drug usage, consumption was so big back then. Everybody did it, everybody was normal, and people lived day to day without really worrying about the future, which actually gave slow problems into what a lot of the things that are happening today in society are in trouble for, kind of thing. So that's the first thing I wanted to begin with. It's just like, you know, making comparisons between today and the past is something that's very, if you want to be fair, is something that's very tedious, very difficult, and you will need to sit down in a very esoteric conversation for that. You will have to be in the zone and actually evaluate many factors that people don't point out. But it's easy to have a loose tongue and just spit out whatever you want without ever reaping the consequences for your words. But the next thing that I wanted to talk about was opportunities that we have now, right? Let's take, for example, relationships. It's a lot easier. And this is the thing, like, things look easier, but they're easier and harder. It really stays the same throughout time. Because at the end of the day, if something's easier for a person, it's easier for another person. If something is easier, it's not easier for one guy or girl. It's easier for everybody. So the fact that like dating is now easier because we have internet and social media means it's easier, but not really, because if it's easy for everybody, the competition is still the same. So that's it. Like, the competition is the root of the problem. Who's going to get the better partner? Who's going to get this guy, get this girl, whatever? If the competition stays the same, then it stays the same. If you improve yourself and you set yourself above the others, then it's different. Then it's easier for you. But if it's easier in general, it's not easy at all. It's just the same, right? I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. And yeah, so when I talk about things like that, business, dating, now that everything is so much more digital, so much more online rather than person face to face, you know, the problems are now different. Now it's not just okay, I need to find a person, and then find this person. After I find her or him, I need to be cool. I need to have a good first impression. Now it's okay. It's easy to find a person. There's literally billions of people online. I need to find a way of standing out compared to the billion people that are going to be messaging this person too. Well, not literally. If you imagine that, damn. But you know what I'm trying to say. So now you may be thinking, well, hold on. There's some sort of contradiction here. If everything's the same, how do we have it harder than they did? Well, I was thinking about the video, right? And then I was thinking about the topics I could tackle, and I was thinking, well, is it actually harder? What things are changing that are not in our control? Because that would be the only thing that's really changing things. And I thought, well, the one thing that I guess would be more annoying for our generation than theirs is that, and this is good in terms of criminals and all that, but it's looking dark. Like, it could go into somewhere really bad in a few years if this keeps up. But the government now has a lot more access to everybody's private life, right? Through the phones, through the computers, through everything. There might be bloody the birds or spies, who knows, right? But yeah, so that's one thing that is very different. Before it was more loose. You could cover up for a lot of crimes and whatnot easier. Not that you would, you know, I'm sounding like a criminal a little bit here, but like, you know what I'm trying to say. It's just there is less ways to be private nowadays. So yeah, but at the same time, there's more freedom to move around the world through travel and internet, and also generating money through the internet, which allows you to have freedom to not be constrained by these kind of factors that are playing into play. So it kind of is still the same, but I would still argue that we have a bit less freedom than we used to have then, and that is not the same standard. So I would say that is different in a sense of that we have it harder. But yeah, and I just want to touch again on the relationships thing, because as humans, our priorities in life are pretty much finding a partner and passing down our seed and creating life again, right? It's all about creating life and survival. So what I wanted to focus more as the main point is the relationship part. We have it way harder in terms of relationships, both men and women. Men, because they have to compete with the entire world now. A girl can go online, right? And all the power to them, but you see why it's hard for girls too. And find a man that's going to give her time, money, and affection, whatever. But yeah, so for men, it's very much more competitive. Now instead of dealing with the folk in your town or in your city, now you're dealing with the whole globe. So tough luck on us. We have to build ourselves up more. But this connects to why it's hard for girls too, despite what I just said. A lot of people will catfish. A lot of people, not just by looks, but lifestyle, etc. A lot of people will pretend to be something they're not. A lot of people will deceive girls. A lot of girls are now under the illusion that men want to establish a relationship when they only want sex, which, and I'm not gonna talk about myself, but yeah, which is really bad for the girl, and men shouldn't do that at all. Of course, at least that's what I believe in, and I know it's true. Like, I'm not gonna say that's what I believe in. No, men shouldn't do that at all. So yeah, women have it harder in the sense of getting played, pretty much, and men have to play harder. And if they don't have that status, that's when they're gonna start being miserable and playing. So that's the one part that is harder than in the past. In the past, it was a bit more. Well, at least if you think about it, it must have probably been a bit more wholesome, more natural, and nicer, just in general. Meeting a person through a natural setting rather than Instagram or like dating apps. Yeah, so that's one thing that I genuinely think we have it harder. But as regards to education, everybody has it a lot more. Has it a lot more. Almost a lot of people can read now, which wasn't a thing in the past. And yeah, education is available online. I could search up a billion things and the results will come up. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. And yeah, next time somebody in your family that you're close with, don't come across rude, not a stranger or anything like that. Try to talk to you about that. See if you can playfully tease them with some of the arguments I made here. And yeah, that's it. So much love.